I would say so. We got to the rim a lot. They reached on us. We kind of we didn't contain the pressure when we were at the rim. We missed a lot of basically layups at the rim that we left out there tonight. And I feel like with those possessions we could have won the game.
Terone, coupled with what you just said, a lot of points left at the rim. It was tied at 46, and then they just seemed to they got a lot of experience. Could you sense down the stretch their experience was a factor, wasn't it? Could you talk about that?
I'll have to say so, but I feel like we were there at the end, like you said, when it was 46-46, but we got 2 or 3 plays in a row where we were at the rim where we didn't get buckets. That could have been a 6-point swing. We just had too many times where it was, we should have been +5, we were -5, and we had too many of those.
Guys, you got off to a pretty good start offensively. Over time, that kind of dried up. Was that them kind of asserting their defense, or anything they kind of took away from you, or anything they adjusted to, or anything like that?
I think it was just us just turning over and taking a couple bad shots down the road. Me just not being really physical and taking it to the rim. That's just me personally. But other than that, I feel like we did well offensive wise, but it's just a couple shots down the road we just didn't make.
Hey Jay, you had a career high in rebounds, career high in assists. You seem to get a lot of open looks down inside. What do you think contributed to you being able to perform that way today?
Just getting their bigs in foul trouble at the beginning, and then just coaches telling me just to take it to the hole, just post up every rib like I couldn't even come out the paint. So just keep taking it to the smaller man, and then just work with that, and then kick it back out when I need to, just post up deeper. But it was just pretty much we just need to get the ball inside more.
How do you think you played?
I think I played okay. It's just too many turnovers for me, and then it's just not finishing at the basket. Really, I was 6 and 16. That's just horrible.
Crack had 10 assists today. He was driving a lot, and you guys were collapsing. He was getting it out to 3-point shooters. Obviously, early they were missing, but when they started hitting, was there any thought to change and just let him kind of drive?
I don't know. It was. As a team, you got to collapse to the basketball. You can't leave. You can't let guys get open layups. We had what we had to change was just continuing to dribble and quit letting them get to the rim so easily. So everybody had to collapse, and then they had those openings. But
better rotation, really.
BJ, like you just mentioned, it was I think 6 of 16 from the field today, and I'm sure that's something Coach Merrill mentioned when he comes in here. What do you still feel like is missing from your game as far as being able to finish off those
just finishing at the rim, that's the only thing I feel like I need to work on more. I'm still working on it, but just finishing at the rim, going hard, rebounding, just even though if I put a shot up, go back and try to rebound my own shot more.
Terone, what were what was the most important thing you guys felt like you had to do to keep them out of transition? You felt like you feel like you did it well?
I feel like for us it was just taking good shots, getting what we wanted, so that we'd be, balanced as far as getting back on defense and keeping them out of transition. But like I said, those times where we had those point swings, it was probably either from a bad shot or turning the ball over, which they ended up being in transition where they played really well.
Anything else? One more, 2 more.
Well, guys, what do you take from a game like this when you're playing, the number 3 team in the country and you're right there the whole time? You're just, a few bad breaks away.
Just the fact that we could have been right there. We felt like a couple more plays at the rim, we made those baskets, a couple less turnovers, a couple more 50-50 balls, and we would have won the game today. So that's just something we take from it. But we just got to get better. Can't take it as a moral victory.
Well, I thought they made plays at that time, made some shots, and Quentin Ross had a great game, and obviously Shannon Scott was very good, knocked out some shots, and so I don't know exactly the stretch, but when Loving and Scott hit those back-to-back threes, that was a big blow to us. I thought our guards did a pretty good job of getting the ball inside, and we just didn't finish. Whether that was AJ at the rim or as well those other guys, we had some opportunities in that second half where we did really good things and came away with nothing. And when you go back and you look at things, and dissect it and watch the film, I think that's what we'll come away with, especially from an offensive standpoint, is that we were getting a pretty good shot. We just didn't do a good job of finishing, at the rim.
If you talk more about AJ's performance, I mean, it was 16 rebounds, 5 blocks, 4 assists, doing a lot of good things, but then also 6 of 16 from the floor. And, I know he has to play more with Travis being out and Jay's foul situation, but you just kind of assess his overall performance, considering it seemed like as much bad as good.
Right. Well, I thought, obviously his ability to rebound was very good and allowed us to have a 9-rebound advantage over a pretty good basketball team. But they were smaller, caused of foul trouble also, and I thought he did a good job of staying in the game, playing without fouling himself, rebounding the basketball, and I know he wishes he could have a handful of those shots back, because he normally makes those shots. But I thought he did a good job. He passed the ball, he got blocks, he had a couple turnovers. But this is the first game I think we've done a really good job in terms of getting him the ball in position to either score or just play out of the post.
Matt, you got off to a pretty good start offensively, considering how good Ohio State is from a defensive standpoint. In the second half, it kind of went dry a little bit. You talked about runs going against it. You talked about the dry spells on offense. What was the difference between the start of the first half and the start of the second half?
Well, I thought we were able to knock down a shot. Ray knocks down a 3, and we missed I think 8 straight threes in the first half, and that really hurt us in the first half. I thought we had some good looks at the basket. We were able to get the ball inside while missing perimeter shots. I thought if we could have made a couple threes, it really opened some things up. Then the start of the second half, like I said earlier, I thought we had some pretty good looks. I think there's a whole lot of difference in our looks. We just didn't knock them down, and then we had to call a timeout and try to do a better job of getting the ball inside and do a better job of getting a clean look. But it wasn't that bad to start with. I think it's sometimes you can overreact as a basketball fan or a writer or a coach, and the ball goes in and you feel good about it because it's the greatest offense, and the ball doesn't go in and you think something's wrong with your offense. In reality, you got a pretty good shot you said, Mike.
The last few years, Ohio State has had the luxury when they're not shooting well from the perimeter. They could throw it into Sullinger, they could throw it into Deshaun Thomas, and they would get their 20 a game no matter what else was going on around them. Off the way that they went to Ross today and the way he produced, you see him becoming maybe that kind of a go-to player for him?
Yeah, I think he can. Obviously more in the mold of a Deshaun Thomas, a guy that can shoot from the perimeter and drive the basketball and play out of the mid-post. He's a very talented, player. And you saw a little bit of all that today. He's going to score. He's not looking to pass much. And I think you can have, a couple of those guys. You can't have a lot of those guys because it doesn't make for good offense. What makes for good offense is Aaron Craft. And I said it when you talked to me earlier in the week, Bob. He's got the qualities like Mike Conley. He's just there to get. He just wants Ohio State to win, and you don't see a lot of kids like that anymore. He just wants his team to win. He'll do anything it takes, and his ability to probe the defense and keep his dribble alive and be patient or whatever allows those other guys to do their thing, and it allows good spacing. And anytime you can have that kind of patience from your point guard, it just makes for good offense.
Matt, I was actually going to ask you about Kraft. You used a couple different guys to try to defend him. Just kind of a quick reaction, was there one guy you thought did a better job than the others?
Well, it's different because he's a guy that, got a shot blocked a couple times earlier in the game. And a lot of guys get frustrated. And, he just adjusted his game. And he just was more patient and, was going to get those guys, good looks. And, he has 10 assists and 0 turnovers. It speaks for itself. But he also gets 8 defensive rebounds. He's able to, affect the game without scoring. And very few people can do that, especially when you're 6 foot.
Matt, you've always talked about wanting to see how your team handles adversity in certain situations. There in the second half, there was that stretch where a couple of calls went against you.
Yeah.
Obviously, very, very close calls, played nicely. How did they handle that? Because
I thought they were good.
Afterwards,
I thought they were good. We had We made a couple young mistakes after that, but I didn't think it was the reaction over those calls. I just thought we had a couple ill-advised shots, we had a turnover, and then they were able to score the other thing. But I didn't think there was people being frustrated or upset about calls that led to those plays. I thought they stood alone when it came to it. I was pleased with their guys, the way they handled some things. They weren't trying to miss some of those shots. I thought A.J. Hammons had some good looks at the basket. We had some good runners in the lane. I thought they had a couple of second chance opportunities. They missed about 3 or 4 shots, so they got their own rebound back that I felt that we had to get. I thought the ball was loose 3 or 4 times in the second half. I thought Ohio State came away with those 50-50 balls. We had to make some of those, we had to make more of those plays, and we didn't. And they were able to do that. With one goal, Chris.
When you have a game like this, where obviously, like you said, there's just a few of those shots away, if they go in, it changes the game. I mean, is it encouraging for you as a coach to know? I mean, it's just those little breaks. I mean, is it frustrating? How do you describe a game like this?
Well, we're a better team than we were 2 weeks ago, but we still lost today. So you try to watch tape and learn from it and get better. I thought we made some strides at West Virginia. I thought we made some strides today. I thought our guys showed more of a mature pulse to their game in terms of trying to get the basketball inside. But they made more plays than us. They stepped up and made some shots, some long twos, and Quentin Ross made some more plays at the basket. And we just got to do a better job with it. And you lose, but if you can learn from it and become a better team, it can be pretty valuable.